Let's now switch gears and take you to South Africa, where high unemployment remains a huge problem there, particularly for young people. The official unemployment rate for the second quarter of this year was released earlier. It now stands at 32.6%. Now, that figure actually represents an improvement compared to the previous 3 months. Indeed, unemployment is now at its lowest level since the first quarter of 2021. A major constraint in growing the economy in the last decade has been rolling power blackouts. They affect businesses of all sizes. If you don't have power, you can't produce. Now, today's figures reveal the number of people with jobs rose to 16.3 million in the second quarter. That figure, although still sobering, indicates that unemployment is now approaching pre-COVID levels. Despite being Africa's most industrialized economy, South Africa has one of the highest unemployment rates in the world. Youth unemployment is particularly bleak and has remained at around 50% for the last year. Well, we want to get more insights on that, and we are now joined live from Johannesburg by Isobel Frye, who's the Executive Director of Social Policy Initiative. Isobel, thanks for speaking with us. So many African countries are promising their citizens that as we race towards industrialization, the jobs will come. But here is Africa's most industrialized economy with a huge unemployment problem. Help us understand how that became the case.
Good evening, and thank you very much for the invitation. I think firstly, just to stipulate that in our think tank, SPI, we use the broader definition of unemployment because that includes discouraged work seekers, people who've given up looking for work. So the figure that you cited of 32% for general unemployment, if you include people who've given up looking for work, it's 42%. So we are settling just under 50% of our total adult workforce who are unemployed. You mentioned the youth unemployment, and again, including people who've given up looking for work, youth unemployment is 70%. That means that only 3 out of every 10 people aged 15 to 24 who are available for work have work. The points that you raised are really valid. We've been facing rolling electricity blackouts, and in fact, the electricity sector itself lost 6,000 jobs in this last quarter, and their knock-on effects to other industries. But we do need to realize that our economy has been shedding jobs for the last 30 years. In fact, the sector that lost the most jobs was manufacturing, whereas the sector that created more jobs for this quarter was construction, which are indecent and short-term temporary jobs. So the question that we need to ask is, what is happening to our manufacturing and productive sector? For that, we need to look at the fact that our growth rate is predicated at 0% this year. And where you have no growth, you have no labor market elasticity. So we came out of apartheid 30 years ago with an incredibly unequal labor market. We have very high-paying jobs for highly skilled people. But for the majority of people, not only are the jobs low paid, but they are fewer and fewer of them that are available for people without skills.
Isobel, allow me to jump in just to get some clarity on this. For those who are celebrating the fact that unemployment, according to some of the data we have, is at the lowest since the first quarter of 2021, what would you say to those who say, look, there's a silver lining in all this?
I think if you look at the total number of people who are not employed, we're looking at 11.9 million people. So the fact that we've created a couple of 100,000 jobs in this quarter is very, very minuscule. And in fact, for people who are celebrating that as being a silver lining, I think that's very dangerous. I think we need to look at what we should be doing to absorb the 12 million people who are not earning an income on a daily basis. We have an incredibly low, small informal sector, and that's also because the levels of poverty are so high that people can't support informal trade. We've 11 million people are in formal employment, only 3 million people are in informal employment, and that backs the trend of the whole of the developing world, and Africa particularly, where the informal economy thrives. But where people can't afford to support entrepreneurs, micro-entrepreneurs, it means that people are basically rendered economically inactive and incredibly poor. We've seen hunger and starvation increasing. There's a huge concern ahead of next year's elections. People describe the situation as being a volatile tinderbox, and that's the concern that we have.
Isobel Frye, thank you so much for taking some time to share with us some of those sobering statistics. She's the Executive Director of Social Policy Initiative, joining us from Johannesburg.